we live in a post-truth world. So Grok is simply taking publicly available data and replying it in a quirky manner, in a conversational manner. So other chatbots around like ChatGPT, they are not this conversational. Grok is very conversational in its tone and tenor. If something is not withheld by the government, if it is available in public domain, then what is the problem in talking about it? Any difference to BJP Andhbhaks? That is pretty obvious. If somebody is hypothesizing that this will change how extreme Hindutva narrative would shift to a liberal narrative, sorry, that is not going to happen. This can influence the floating audience, which sided with BJP on a development agenda, and for past 10-12 years they have been their hopes have been trampled upon in multiple ways. It can change their perception maybe a bit. Is that these right-wingers, they can't accuse it of being biased because it's a AI chat, but it will say what the data it is being fed. That's the biggest problem that these guys have right now. Perception of those floating voters, those 3 to 5% full floating voters, that is what we should aim at as political campaigners. I don't think Twitter will change its approach, X will change its approach towards Grok because of one Indian minister raising it with some other US official of X, because US has its own policies around how they see freedom of expression, and how they see their worldview is very different from our Indian worldview. We are not in one of their top 5 priorities. Let's be very clear about that.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Now, Elon Musk's Grok is making waves. It's become a center of conversation. People are posting screenshots as to how questions are asked and how Grok is answering those questions. Now, what is Grok? Grok is an AI-powered chatbot which is integrated into X, which was formerly known as Twitter. It is designed to process queries and generate responses based on available data and user interactions. Unlike unconventional AI chatbots, Grok is known for its informal tone and direct approach. Now, my phone inbox has been flooded with many, many screenshots of how questions are being asked on Prime Minister Modi, how BJP has been lying on various issues. And just to give you a latest example, social media users, there's the social media user called Tarun Speaks. He happened to ask Grok that who's the most communal politician of India, and the chatbot's response, which named Prime Minister Modi, has now sparked widespread reactions. Now, what will this AI tool do to figures like Prime Minister Modi and elsewhere across the world? What is the kind of impact we'll see in the social and political hemisphere? That is also worrying. What will it do to the young minds, and how sustainable is this model of Grok? Will it not face ban across the countries? Will it put in place some filters which will control it? All these are questions which are being asked currently on the social media. So joining me now this evening is a very special guest, Ankit Lal, who is a political strategist, social media influencer, internet personality, columnist, and author as well. Thank you so much, Ankit Lal, for joining on HW. And it's always wonderful to have you on a day like this, when people are hooked onto Grok on the social media as to what all questions are being asked. My first question to you is that how sustainable will this model of Grok be? Because Grok has had earlier versions as well, but the most talked about is this latest version, which is making waves. Do you think it's going to be sustainable?
Hi, Niluji. So pleasure to be here on the platform. And see, let's understand what Grok is. Grok is an AI chatbot, and what makes it very, very different from other chatbots around is that X had its historical data of last decade and a half, almost 18 years now, to train this chatbot. Okay. So X used to be Twitter, and Twitter had a very level playing field compared to other platforms when it comes to how it treated the opposition and the ruling establishment. Okay, a lot of to and fro questioning, answering did happen here on Twitter. Okay, that data was available with the team to train this chatbot. Okay, so the quirkiness of the chatbot is what makes it very different, apart from how it presents that available data. So this data, what it is showing, for example, somebody asked, who is the supposed freedom fighter who started taking patients from the British? The chatbot answered that it was Savarkar. That's a historical fact. There's nothing that is undocumented in that. Grok actually told what was the amount and what was the penalty, and as after which Savarkar started receiving that pension. These are historical facts. However, in the past 10 to 12 years, we have forgotten to treat facts as facts, and a lot of we live in a post-truth world. So Grok is simply taking publicly available data and replying it in a quirky manner, in a conversational manner. So other chatbots around like ChatGPT, they are not this conversational. Grok is very conversational in its tone and tenor, which is what makes it different from the other chatbots around. So there's nothing new in this. However, the way it is presenting the data is not new. The way it is presenting the same data which is available, so anybody who wants to read these facts. So you asked about Prime Minister Modi being communal. Is it undocumented? It is a historical documented fact. There's nothing new in it. Some user on Twitter asked Grok, who is the Indian Prime Minister who hasn't done a press conference in past 10, 12 years. The answer is there in public. Grok just pulled out that data and replied in a quirky manner, saying that it gave some data points around that as well. Okay.
No, but
The same
the
can be
question,
asked about global personalities as well.
right? No, no.
So there
What
was a
I
question. So there was, in fact, a question. Somebody asked Grok whether Starlink was used in Manipur. Okay. And Starlink is a company owned by Elon Musk, who also owns Twitter, which is now X. Manipur is a very, very sensitive issue for the establishment. And Grok gave a kind of muddled reply. It kind of jumbled up the some of the words, and users went after it like anything. So right now, Grok is also being trained, and these conversations are actually helping it get trained. So every question that we ask it, every reply that it gives to us, it is training Grok for the next level of queries and
But
questions.
can Grok become a security issue too? Say, for example, you were giving me the example of Manipur, what it said, it gave a muddled reply. Can it become a security issue also? Like certain questions asked, it could puncture the government's narrative. But my point is that can it become a security issue as well?
Well, puncturing the government's narrative is actually a journalist's job. If a journalist does not do his or her job, then somebody else will take the responsibility. So that is something that I'm not very concerned about. Okay, citizen journalists have been fulfilling that role for years now. Okay, but coming to security issues, okay, anything which is in public domain, any data which is in public domain, that should be available for anybody and everybody. There, if something is in public domain, either it should not be put in public domain. So CIA for decades keeps documents under certain US laws. They are not allowed for public usage. So if something is not withheld by the government, if it is available in public domain, then what is the problem in talking about it? So if journalists stop doing their job, it does not mean that everybody will stop doing their job.
But in times of Godi media, Ankit, when the narratives have been manufactured by TV channels to favor the ruling dispensation, so what does this chatbot do called Grok? Now, does it demolish the Godi media? Does it demolish the narrative which was created by BJP? Does it demolish the image of the prime minister, who was a 56 inches muscle man who was doing wonders in the world?
See, mm, it won't make any difference to BJP and the Bhaks. That is pretty obvious.
Okay.
If somebody is uh, hypothesizing that this will change how extreme Hindutva narrative would shift to a liberal narrative, sorry, that is not going to happen. This can influence the floating audience, which sided with BJP on a development agenda, and for past 10, 12 years, they have been uh, like their hopes have been trampled upon in multiple ways. It can change their perception maybe a bit, but the extreme Hindutva audience, and nothing will change their opinion. So हिंदी में कहावत है कि जैनों के मोहल्ले में शाकाहार पे भाषण नहीं देना चाहिए. Okay, so you can't teach about liberalism to liberals, or about about extremism to extremists, because they know everything that is there in that. The audience that can be swayed, that is pretty narrow these days. Okay, but that is the audience which decides which way an election will go. So in the recently concluded Haryana elections, the difference between the ruling and the between the winning and the losing party was less than 1.5%. Congress was 1.5%, less than 1%, if I'm correct, uh, behind the BJP. Similarly, in Delhi, AAP was like 1.99 or 2% behind the BJP in the overall vote percentage. So this floating 5% votes, if we are able to sway that, that will make a huge difference, and in that I believe Grok can play a role. So Twitter earlier used to transcend social media boundaries, so a Twitter screenshot would travel to a Facebook or a Instagram and WhatsApp. Now that might start to happen again. That had so ever since Elon Musk takeover and the entire fiasco around multiple things that happened inside Twitter, Twitter's engagements had decreased a lot. Grok might help in increasing that engagement again. And if that increase in engagement leads to it acquiring new users, those new users lead to getting more commercial revenue out of it. Then, because it's a listed company, then its investors will say, "Okay, this is working for us."
Is, I was listening to you carefully, and you said that the user engagement might increase, and if the user engagement increases, my question to you is that does it puncture the fake information? Will it increase the flow of the fake news? Will it increase the the fake narrative which is being spread around? Now, if supposing, for example, if there are certain questions asked on Prime Minister Modi or BJP, and the chatbot Grok answers it in a particular way, I'm sure it's going to be countered by the Andhbhaks and the right-wing troll armies and the BJP supporters. So, is it going to lead to a flooding of fake information, some newer narratives?
They can try all they want. There's no harm in that. Everybody has the right to try whatever they want to. But let's stick to this specific example on fake news. Okay. So there are organizations like Alt News and people like Zubair who keep on trying to bust the fake news. Okay. But they have been branded in a certain way by the right wing. Okay. So even if Zubair come up with the best of arguments, the right wing users would not heed even iota of credibility to that. Okay, despite him giving the all the data and everything. Okay, but when Grok, which is an AI chatbot, which one can't say is biased. Okay, because if you ask a question which has historical relevance and is pro right wing, it will give a pro right wing answer. So it is the historical data which is being communicated in a certain way. If the data speaks against a certain leader, like if Modi has not conducted a press conference, he has not conducted a press conference. There's nothing to, it's not something that he can conjure in an alternate reality saying that, no, I did do a press conference. He has not. He has done one-on-one interviews with pliable journalists, with Godi media. That is another issue altogether. Those are not press conferences. So if Andhbaks come up with that example, people say, okay, was it a press conference or was it a staged interview? So Then Grok will go and again check, and it will have a certain kind of parameter. Okay, what is an interview? What is a press conference? And it will come with what data is available to it. So the advantage with Grok is that these right wingers, they can't accuse of it of being biased because it's a AI chat, but it will say what the data it is being fed. That's the biggest problem that these guys have right now.
Right. So I'm wanting to know from you, how does it impact the political parties and their narratives, starting from BJP? I'll also talk about opposition, how opposition will lap it up, or is it a worry for the opposition? Because there might be biases in the reply, people might spread in more fake information. So is it a worry on the part of the ruling dispensation and the opposition parties as well?
See, BJP since a long time, since past 5 7 years, has stopped using Twitter, which is now X, as a medium of communication with its own audience. It does not use it for that. Okay, it uses platforms like YouTube, WhatsApp, to a certain degree, Instagram and Facebook as well. But the two primary platforms are YouTube and WhatsApp. On those two platforms, consistency matters a lot. So whether these screenshots from X are able to make way to the larger audience on those platforms, we are already getting a lot of screenshots, but I live in my own bubble, you live in your own bubble. So whether these screenshots are able to transcend those bubbles, and so for example, I'm part of a family group, okay, like most of us are. Uh, and there's, like everybody, I also have those Sanghi uncles who once in a while will post some extreme right wing agenda. Okay. Sometimes I would reply to them, sometimes I won't. Now I have the option of going to Grok, asking the question, and giving a reply from Grok as a screenshot rather than me getting into the argument. Ale, I didn't have that leverage. So rather than
Right.
saying that this is my argument, I can say, hey, this is what Grok, which is owned by Elon Musk, who doesn't have anything to do with Indian politics, has to say.
Hmm.
So that individual bias, it kind of goes away if I use it in that way. I hope it will be used in that way. I'll use it for sure in that way.
Right. No, but that's a positive aspect. But do you think that this Godi media narrative, which has been created for the last 11 years almost by the BJP, by the Godi media, what is going to be the impact? Because the journalists have not been doing their job, and let's be honest about it. Godi media term evolved because the journalists did not do their job. Now, with this
Okay, let's
Grok,
take a specific example. Let's take the
right,
example of Sudhir Chaudhary. Let's take a very specific example. If you go back to 2007 8 and watch Sudhir Chaudhary's interviews, he was very pro Congress. Okay. If you see his interviews now and what he has done off late, he is totally pro BJP. These are individuals who are pro power. It has nothing to do with ideology. Okay. And these individuals will shift when their loyalties as and when the power changes. The same people will lap up to Rahul Gandhi the day Rahul Gandhi come to power. Uh, Whether he accepts these individuals as his stooges or not, that is up to him. But these people are basically power brokers who guise themselves as journalists. They are not proper journalists. The definition of a journalist is goes way beyond what these people are trying to do. These are stooges, and let's be very clear about the fact that these people are not journalists. They're on TV channels posing as journalists. That's another problem altogether. Okay. Now, these people are shameless. They don't care. For past 15 years, they have been abused left, right, and center about anything and everything that they do. They don't care. For them, it's about financial benefit out of the establishment that they are catering to. And I don't think that will change due to Grok. It can change due to a larger change in the political establishment, but one Grok can change that? I don't think so. Grok can help us change the perception of those floating voters, those 3 to 5% floating voters. That is what we should aim at as political campaigners, not.
But Ankit, you are saying that if it can affect or impact in any way that 3 to 4% of the floating voters who was thinking in a particular manner and will now be forced to change their thought process. So will it be advantage for the opposition parties? Because since we were talking about BJP, so will it be at an advantage for the opposition parties like Congress, or for that matter, Aam Aadmi Party, or for that matter, any other political party which is in the opposition?
So let's take the example of DMK and the three language policy issue that's been going around.
Yeah.
DMK can very easily go from its official handle on Twitter and ask Grok what are the problem with the three language policy and what is the, and actually post that as a thread, because there are problems. Okay, these things have historical precedence going back 70, 80, 100, 200 years, which somebody from my generation might or might not be aware of. The advantage that something like a Grok has, it has access to a lot of historical data which it can dive into at any point needed. I won't be able to go and read some letter that was written 100 years ago. That's not practical for anybody and everybody. But in that, consistency is also needed. So the opposition parties, sometimes they lack consistency in their approach. They'll do something one day and then next day they will shift to something else. So over a period, there has to be consistency in their approach. So if they're able to use Grok consistently as a way to kind of I would say refute BJP and right wing lies, then it might be more useful to them. If tomorrow Grok replies negatively about one Congress government and Congress guys go hammer and tongs against it, then sorry, that won't work. It can't be dual standards.
Absolutely. No, but then does it mean that will Elon Musk continue this model as he's continuing with no filters, with no restrictions? And how will the governments react? I'm sure Modi won't like this. And maybe at some point of time, he might think of banning Grok. Will he be able to do that?
Well, I don't think Grok as a handle would be banned in India. That is pretty difficult to do. They might contemplate banning X as a platform, but given Elon Musk's current closeness to the US president, I don't think the current establishment has the balls to do that. Yeah.
No, but how
I
will
have spelled it
how
out
might
as clearly I can.
No, but how might the Indian government react to this? And because the questions are not palatable, the answers given are not palatable, they are not in good taste for the BJP. So, what can the government really do now?
See,
Except that
putting
they
on my
watch.
strategist hat, if they reply to it, that will be the worst mistake that they do. It will only inflate this rather than take. So if they ignore it, people will kind of become bored after a point of time, because these things are not something that are new. These questions have been around for years, and people have been answering using historical data and facts and figures for decades now. They didn't pay heed. So why should one more Twitter handle asking and replying on that should make a difference, ideally? But we don't live in an ideal world. I hope they will respond. If they respond, then it will only make this issue bigger. I don't think Twitter will change its approach. X will change its approach towards Grok because of one Indian minister raising it with some other US official of X, because US has its own policies around how they see freedom of expression, and how they see their worldview is very different from our Indian worldview. We are not in one of their top 5 priorities. If let's be very clear about that. Okay, our prime minister was not even invited to the president's swearing in. So it's not as if we are Mr. Modi's pally with Trump. It's not that.
But you are a political strategist also, Ankit. And as a political strategist, do you think that Grok has the potential of demolishing Modi's image further? It has faced a deep decline, but now can it demolish it further?
See, there's a concept called death by 1,000 cuts. Okay, that is how the Greek Empire died. Greeks were like way beyond where Modi or anybody else in the current world is. So this can be another cut in amongst those 1,000 cuts. It in itself will kill the entire paraphernalia. No, that is not going to happen. But it can be a deeper wound compared to the rest. That is what might happen. But it
Right.
is not going to be the only thing that will dismantle BJP propaganda. It can be one of the tools.
Right. So, do you think that this tool is going to be employed quite widely by the political parties? Because you are a campaign strategist yourself,
Well,
and how helpful will it be for a person like you? This particular tool called Grok.
more than political parties, people who are politically inclined are already using this. Whether the parties use this or not will is irrelevant at this point, because politically inclined people are already using this as a tool to refute the BJP lies. And people have already taken the lead on that. Parties, I don't think, have used it as a platform, as a chatbot replying to their queries as of now, because we don't know what they will reply. So parties might refrain from using their official handles to do this, and their supporters will continue trying to use this as a uh, tool to kind of set their agenda and create a certain narrative. How far that narrative will go will depend entirely on whether mainstream media picks it up, which is very unlikely. How YouTube ecosystem picks it up, which is more likely to happen. How
YouTube is already
screenshots
picking
go
it up.
viral on Instagram.
No, YouTube is already talking a lot about Grok. In fact, in the last 48 hours, if you pick up, there are so many videos. I myself have done a number of videos,
Yes, I
and
know,
that's
I
why I
know.
thought of interviewing you today, because Grok has become the center of interest. But my point is that can it become a security issue as well? Say, for example, questions asked on Manipur. Can Grok become a security issue also for a ruling dispensation?
See, the data that Grok uses is data that is publicly available. And if any data is publicly available, that data is available for everybody on the internet. So if Grok is using that same data to reply to any query, there's nothing wrong with that. If a data is sensitive, then don't release it in public domain. If a data is not sensitive, it is in public domain, it can be used by anybody and everybody on the internet. There's no harm with that. So CIA keeps its thousands of pages of report out of public view for certain reasons. If the Indian government wants to keep certain things out of the public purview, they should not release it in the public purview.
No, but then will Grok lead to more iron curtains? Like you said, that CIA doesn't release its many public reports. I mean, many reports it doesn't want to make public.
Yeah,
So
it
will
is
it
an
build
embargo of a few
iron
decades.
curtains in the government systems?
Well, isn't there one already?
They already
They,
have. I'm
they,
saying bigger iron curtains now.
well, let them try. So it's not as if the data is coming out because of the lack of trying on the government's behalf. The government is trying its best already. Let them try more.
Right. But do you think that this technological tool and the AI tool, Grok, is really going to disrupt the things, or will it facilitate? Do you see this as a disruptor or a facilitator?
See, from one person's perspective, the same thing can be a disruptor, and from another person's perspective, it can be a facilitator. So
Yeah.
BJP ecosystem might see this as a disruptor, and it has kind of reinvigorated the agenda against them. Some people will see that this as a natural progression of things, because this is a simple AI chatbot. These things have been available for people who use AI tools for almost 6 months to a year, but this is the first time that such a chatbot is available on a social media platform for general public to use. Somebody had to be having a certain degree of understanding of AI and technology to be able to use such chatbots in the past. Now people can use it pretty easily just by sending out a tweet tagging Grok. So that level of ease in the usage, that threshold of uh, use, that problem in the usage of a platform, that has come down severely with Grok. And I believe even general audience, so for example, asking questions on economy, I don't want to read a 1,000-page report by RBI as to why the rupee is declining. I would rather ask the question to Grok and let it read the report and tell me why the rupee is declining.
True, true. Okay, so my last question, and then I'm going to wind up the interview, Ankit, that will Prime Minister Modi be a worried man now? as far as his image is concerned, as far as his party is concerned? Do you think that this is really going to increase the worry?
When is the prime minister not a worried man? He has been a worried man for past 20, 25 years, if I'm correct. He has
No,
always
but
been on
this
a campaign mode.
Grok is going to be seen as an added headache now to his kitty
Yes,
of
it's an
problems.
added headache, but it won't be the biggest of his headaches. He has ample headaches already. Okay, but it will be added chink in the armor, if I may say so.
Right. All right. So we'll have to wait and watch how. But you said that they cannot ban Grok at all. They cannot ban Grok.
Banning that specific handle in India would be very, very difficult because Grok, so X as a platform, it's a public company. They have to show their investors that they are growing and they are increasing in engagement and user base so that they can go to the advertisers and get more advertising money. Okay, so it is very difficult for a platform which to curtail a feature which is helping its growth. So that would be very tricky to maneuver around. They can talk about talk to X in a different way, maybe, but I don't think banning Grok or X would lead them anywhere.
Right. All right, so we'll have to wait and watch. It has just started. Last 48 hours have been doing wonders on the social media with people asking questions, replies coming back and forth, and the replies being published in the newspapers and news websites as well, and which is why we were discussing this. So thank you so much,
Yes.
Ankit, for joining on HW. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.